You ever hear a story so outrageous, you think it has to be made up? Well, buckle in because this one is very real. Imagine spending months tending to your backyard garden, planting vegetables, herbs, and flowers with your own two hands, only for someone to march up and declare, "This garden belongs to the neighborhood." That someone was Karen, our HOA president, with a voice like a foghorn and the audacity of a thief in broad daylight. It all started on a Saturday morning. I was out back watering my tomatoes when Karen strutted up in her wide-brimmed sun hat, clipboard in hand like she was on a military inspection. Without even a hello, she scanned my garden and announced, "This is communal property. The HOA will need access." I nearly dropped my hose. "Communal property? Karen, this is my backyard. You see the fence? You see the deed with my name on it? Pretty sure this garden is mine." But Karen smirked, flipping through her papers as though she were revealing divine law. "The HOA rules state that any decorative landscaping is subject to community use, and your garden qualifies." I laughed, not just because of the absurdity, but because Karen actually thought she could strong-arm me into giving away my hard work. "These aren't decorations, they're vegetables. I eat these." She didn't back down. In fact, she doubled down. She pointed at the sunflowers I'd planted by the fence. "Those are ornamental. The neighborhood kids will love them. I'll schedule a harvest day." That's when I realized Karen wasn't joking. She fully intended to let people walk into my yard and pick from my garden like it was a public park. I told her flat out, "If anyone steps into this yard without my say-so, that's trespassing." Karen's smile froze, the kind of smile that hides a storm brewing underneath. She tapped her clipboard and hissed, "We'll see about that." Then she stomped off down the street, muttering to herself. For a moment, I brushed it off as just another one of Karen's antics. But deep down, I had a bad feeling. Karen wasn't the type to back away when she thought she had the upper hand. And sure enough, that evening, I found neighborhood kids poking their heads through my gate, saying Karen told them they could come in any time. That was the moment I knew things were about to get ugly. The first night I caught those kids peeking through my gate, I was more annoyed at Karen than anything else. Kids will be kids, but Karen had clearly fed them this idea that my garden was theirs to raid. I shooed them off gently, told them it wasn't their fault, and locked the gate. But inside I was boiling. By Sunday morning, my bad feeling proved right. I walked out with my coffee, only to find 3 neighbors standing in my backyard, already helping themselves to my herbs. One had basil clutched in his fist like he'd won the lottery. Another was sniffing my rosemary bush. I didn't even know these people's names. "Excuse me," I barked. They froze like deer in headlights. "Who told you this was okay?" Karen?" one stammered. "She said this garden was, for everyone. She told us we could pick what we wanted." I could feel my blood pressure spike. Karen had gone from bold lies to outright invasion. "Well, she doesn't live here. I do. Put that back and leave, now." They scrambled off, but word travels fast in an HOA neighborhood. Within the hour, I saw people circling on the sidewalk, pointing at my yard like it was some kind of community farm. Karen was standing right there with them, arms crossed, looking smug. That's when my wife, Lily, stepped outside. She's the calm one between us, but even she had her limits. "What's going on?" she whispered. I gestured toward Karen. "Apparently my sweat and soil are now HOA property." Lily sighed and rubbed her temples. "She can't do this. You know that, right?" "Yeah," I muttered. "But she's trying, and the neighbors believe her." Sure enough, later that afternoon, Karen showed up again, this time with her clipboard and a little audience of followers. She made a show of announcing to everyone that she'd decided to designate my garden as neighborhood green space. I didn't let her finish. "Karen, you don't have that authority. You're trespassing. Everyone out, now." Her eyes gleamed with fake sweetness, but her words were sharp. "If you don't cooperate, I'll fine you for non-compliance." I laughed in her face. "Fine me for growing food on my property? Go ahead, Karen. See what happens." And just like that, the line was drawn. Karen had declared war over my garden. But what she didn't realize was, I had an ally she didn't see coming. My goat, Benny. And Benny doesn't take kindly to roses. Now, if you've never owned a goat, let me tell you, they're stubborn, mischievous, and oddly brilliant. Benny was no exception. He was part lawnmower, part escape artist, and part troublemaker rolled into one furry package. But he was family. Karen, however, hated Benny. She'd complained about his bleeding noise, his farm smell, and even tried filing a complaint that goats weren't allowed in the neighborhood, except the HOA bylaws said otherwise. I'd fought her off before, but this time, Benny was about to become my secret weapon. A few days after Karen's neighborhood green space stunt, things escalated. I came home from work to find my garden completely trampled. Rows of lettuce flattened, tomatoes half-picked. My sunflowers? Gone. At first I thought it was vandalism. But then I noticed footprints, small ones like kids. Karen had actually organized what she called a garden day. She'd invited families to come, share the bounty, my property. I stormed over to her house, Benny trailing behind me like a furry shadow. Karen was on her porch sipping lemonade, looking smug as ever. "You've gone too far, Karen," I snapped. "This is theft." She leaned back in her chair, unfazed. "It's community sharing. Learn the difference." That's when Benny, as if on cue, trotted past me and made a beeline for her flower bed. Karen's pride and joy, a row of pristine, expensive roses she bragged about constantly. "Benny, no!" I called, but secretly I didn't mean it. Karen shot up, shrieking like a fire alarm. "Get that beast out of here!" Too late. Benny had already sunk his teeth into her prized roses, munching like they were a five-star meal. Petals flew everywhere. Karen flailed her arms, trying to shoo him away, but Benny just danced sideways and took another mouthful. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Loud. For the first time in weeks, the power balance shifted. Karen's face turned beet red. "You'll pay for this!" she screeched. I crossed my arms. "Funny. That's exactly what you owe me. For the vegetables your garden party stole." Her eyes narrowed, and I could practically see the steam pouring out of her ears. She stormed back inside without another word, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. As for Benny, he stood there chewing the last rose stem, looking as satisfied as I felt. That goat had just declared open war, and I wasn't about to back down. What Karen didn't realize was, her battle for control had just cost her the one thing she valued more than power. Her precious roses. The morning after Benny's feast, I knew Karen wouldn't let it go. Sure enough, I woke up to an official-looking notice taped to my door. It read, HOA fine $500, animal property damage. She actually had the nerve to fine me, because my goat ate her roses after she had stolen from my garden. I took the paper straight to Lily, who just shook her head. "She's gone off the deep end. Time to hit back, legally." So I did. I collected photos of the trampled vegetables, the neighbors trespassing, even Karen announcing her so-called neighborhood green space. Lily had recorded part of it on her phone. That was my smoking gun. I filed a complaint with the city and hired a property lawyer. And here's the thing about people like Karen. They thrive on intimidation, but they crumble when someone actually knows the law. At the hearing, Karen strutted in with her binder of HOA regulations, acting like she owned the courtroom. She started ranting about how my garden was decorative landscaping and therefore community property. The judge raised an eyebrow and asked, "Do you have any evidence this was ever agreed upon by the homeowner?" Karen stammered, flipping through her binder. But of course, there was nothing. That's when I pulled out my photos and Lily's video. The judge watched, expressionless, as Karen stood there pale as drywall, her voice cracking every time she tried to object. The verdict was swift. Karen had no authority to declare my garden public. She was ordered to pay me for the damages, triple. The cost of my lost produce, plus cover my legal fees. As for the $500 fine, the judge laughed and called it invalid and retaliatory. But the best part? The city slapped Karen with a citation for trespassing and property damage, since she had orchestrated the whole garden day. Suddenly, the self-appointed queen of the HOA was nothing more than a liability to her own board. Within a month, she was voted out as president. And Benny? He became something of a legend. Neighbors who once believed. Karen started coming by just to laugh about the goat who ate the roses. One even brought him a bag of apples as tribute. Benny, of course, accepted graciously. As I replanted my garden that spring, I couldn't help but smile. Karen had tried to take what was mine and turn it into hers. But in the end, her downfall came from underestimating two things: the law and a very hungry goat. So the next time someone tells you your hard work belongs to them, just remember, sometimes justice has horns. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button. Drop a comment about what you'd do if you had a Karen neighbor. And of course, subscribe for more crazy HOA and neighborhood stories every week. Your support really helps the channel grow.